Good morning, my love muffins. Reverend Sue from All Paths to God, recording live from my living room. Well, today is week 13 since we've met in person, and we are eagerly looking forward to finding a new home. Someone recommended that we actually meet outside while we're in the hunting phase, but I think most of us agree that it's a little too warm to try that. The big church on La Jolla that we were negotiating with is still in the process of seeing if they can close on the purchase of that building. And if and when that happens, then we will have a relationship with them and a new home. I also have the realtor that's renting us our current space looking for a bigger space for us to meet so that we can practice safe social distancing. So we are actively looking around, but at the same time, we are giving it the benefit of the faith. I know the perfect right place will show up at exactly the right time. And by know, I mean that all-powerful knowing, the knowing the truth kind of knowing. Know the truth? I heard you. And the truth shall set us free. Perhaps the greatest message that New Thought brings into the world is that we are one with the divine creator. And we are one with the presence and the power, the love and the law of God. Thus, we are active participants in the creative process. Consciousness creates, thoughts are things. Ernest Holmes, the founder of our church, says, since we are thinking beings and we can't stop thinking, the creative process, consciousness creates, must always be creating something for us. And what it's creating depends on what we're thinking. According to such a belief system, such BS, a problem of any kind on the outside stems from a problem on the inside. From a problem of our minds being held captive by negative and limited thoughts. In itself, there is no limitation to the principle of creation in the universe. The only limitation can be to our application of it. So if we correct, if we shift, if we change, if we expand what's on the inside, if we practice right thoughts, truth thoughts, then the outside must change accordingly. This is the law of the universe. That's why Ernest Holmes emphasized that the purpose of religious science, of science of mind, is to teach truth, to practice truth, and to demonstrate results. Demonstrate desired results. How? By choosing our thoughts. Ultimately, that's what prayer is. Specific, directed thoughts for a desired purpose. One of my favorite Ernest Holmes descriptions of the creative process, which we discussed recently in Reverend Denise's class with the lay ministry students. If you think of the universe as all being water, every time thought moves, an ice sculpture is formed exactly corresponding to the thought. So imagine the countless pieces of ice there would be for every thought that we have. All different forms, but still made out of the one, made out of water. So if you think giraffe, there would be an image of a giraffe. And if you thought car, there would be a nice sculpture of a car. And when thought no longer holds that idea, the form simply melts back into the water. back into the oneness, back into the consciousness. Nothing's changed except the particular form. Our physical universe is water in form, is God in form, liquid God, God in expression. But form is not God's choice. It's God's outlet. It's God's vehicle of expression. God will not decide what form to take. We do that with our choice of thought. So in order to take advantage of this power in the universe that is our power by our spiritual birthright, by our spiritual heritage, to take advantage of that power as active participants in the creative process, we simply need to choose the thoughts that are aligned with truth, that are aligned with what we want, that are aligned with our desires. The ice will take any form that we hold in our mind, that we hold in our consciousness, that we repeat over and over again, that has the power of our emotions and our actions to support it. Simply, that word, simply choose our thoughts. Well, it may be simple, but it's not easy. It's hard. Now, is your warning radar going off? Danger, danger, Will Robinson. It's hard. Now, there's an ice sculpture we just created. How do we like that one? Not. That's what called my attention this week. How many ways I claimed difficulty on my path. It may be simple, but it's not easy. It's easier said than done. No pain, I heard you, no gain. I'm going to be burning the midnight oil, and I was. I'm burning the candle at both ends. It's going to take blood, sweat, and tears. All these sayings, all these thoughts that mean a struggle is going to be part of the experience. When I noticed this pattern of thoughts, the "it's hard" claims, I followed them up with disclaimers. It's all God, it's all good. But I didn't seem to demonstrate the results, or I should say, I didn't seem to demonstrate the desired results, even for little and insignificant things. I got a gift for somebody and I went to take the sticker off of it. And oh my goodness, that was a full day job. And I could hear myself saying, well, this is easier said than done, as I'd pull off a little piece, and little teeny weeny specks of it would come off in no coherent pattern. So you're digging at it with your fingernail, and then I tried to use an SOS pad, and I tried to use oil. It was a laborious process. And I got a little cat kennel for my new kitten. Of course, assembly required. Now, how hard was it? All I had to do was connect the top to the bottom, put the door in, and put 6 screws in. Well, I put the top on the bottom, and there was a lip, and I couldn't quite get a hold on the nut underneath to get the screw down in there, and I really had to work at it. And when I got it all done, I realized there were these hinges that held the top to the bottom that I had folded in. So I was trying to get it to screw shut without it already sealing and fitting the way it was supposed to. So I took it all apart, and I pulled the plastic out, and I went through putting it together again, and then I picked up the door. Well, there was no way to get the door fit in, because the door has to go in before the 2 pieces are together. So I heard myself when I started the project going, oh, well, this will be good. This ought to take a whole day. Well, lo and behold. And one day I went on a Wally's run, and it went through my head, well, this ought to be a fiasco. And guess what? Parking was a zoo. There was major traffic in the actual store. I had difficulty finding what I wanted, and I'd go to one corner, and then I'd have to go all the way over to the other corner, and then come all the way back again. And of course, I had one of those carts where the wheel was fighting me the whole way, and then the checkout line seemed to go to the end of the store. Consciousness creates. And if we hold a mindset that it's going to be hard, it's going to be a struggle, it's going to be a challenge, then that's what's going to show up in our experience. And we know the opposite is true. I can remember when my friends Ruby and Maya and I were going to go over to Treasure Island, which you're probably familiar with that. It's a tourist area and parking is at a premium. But we sat in the car before we left and we just called out all our angels, said we know we were going to have the perfect safe drive. When we got there, the perfect space would open up right beside where we wanted to go. And do you know that is exactly what happened? There were lines of cars everywhere just as we pulled up next to the pizzeria that we wanted to go to. Out pulled a car and we parked. So good or bad, consciousness creates. It doesn't choose what to create, we choose. We choose based on where we point our consciousness. But we are one with the mind of God, with the consciousness of the universe, with the consciousness turns into form, creative process. Teach the truth, practice the truth, and demonstrate results. So in order to practice the truth, we need to neutralize or remove all these things that we've built against it. My disclaimers, my new claims, my new thoughts, it's all God, it's all good, didn't manifest desired results because they had no substance, they had no power behind them to neutralize the sheer frequency and the duration and the intensity of thoughts that are opposite. Thoughts that have held my ice sculptures in place, my life experiences of struggle, of challenge, of it being hard in place. I call that kind of the vent and antidote approach, where we don't put much forethought into it. We just find ourselves in a situation where we recognize that we're going to habit thinking of negative, limiting thoughts, thoughts that we wouldn't want to manifest in our experience. And when we catch them, we do a quick, oh no, it's all good, it's all God. As if that will neutralize these negative thoughts. Not even really recognizing that we might very much still be in the emotional state that supports the limiting thoughts. When we do this vent and antidote approach, there's just no competitive power in it. How can we possibly create easy when we're busy weighing ourselves down with the opposite, with the burden of effort? So as Ernest Holmes said, it's like our disclaimers, the it's all God, it's all good, will melt some ice, but it doesn't change the temperature in the atmosphere. And so it froze again. If we don't roto-rooter our it's hard thoughts and beliefs, they'll freeze and they'll stay frozen. And if they melt a little bit, they'll refreeze right away in form. We have to shift what's on the inside before the outside is going to change and stay changed. Consciousness creates, thoughts are things. But what things depends on our choice of thought. And we can't live a choiceless life. And with the freedom of choice comes the liability of experiencing what we have chosen. Thoughts do have consequences to the thinker. So if we think hard, then we're going to get hard. If we think difficult, then we're going to get difficult. Even though we're thinking a thought that isn't the truth of who we are, the law must produce it in our experience. But when we turn our genuine, heartfelt attention to what is the truth, to the fact that it's easy peasy in the kingdom of God, that all things are possible in the kingdom of God, that it's a snap, that it's a breeze, that it's a cinch, that it's a no-brainer, that it's effortless, and with the added bonus of it's the Father within that doeth the work, we don't even have to know how to make it easy. We just leave it up to God. The Father within doeth the work. When we adopt this thinking, not just as an antidote for the second that we notice a negative thought, but before we even get into any type of situations, we practice this daily as a matter of wanting to shift this pattern in general. When we adopt this thinking, the negative attraction of hard and challenge and struggle and difficult stops, and the positive attraction of easy and effortless begins. Just leave it to God. As Joel Osteen says, if we do what we can, God will do what we can't. We don't know how to make it easy, but God surely does. And if we change this thought, if we give it the benefit of our faith on the inside, then these experiences will change on the outside. So, my love muffins, your mission, if you so choose to accept it this week, is to think easy peasy, that's measy. That's the truth of who we are as children of God, living in the kingdom of infinite possibility. Hard isn't a way of truth. It isn't a way of life. It's in the way of truth. It's in the way of life. It's instead of life, the truth of life. So for 1 week, think easy peasy, that's measy, all the time. When you wake up in the morning and all day long, when you go to bed, as many times as you can. As a matter of fact, binge think it. You know what I mean by binging. We binge on our TV series episodes where we don't let but the briefest of thing interrupt or distract us from the shows. And the second something does, we zip through it and get right back to that focus over and over and over and over and over again. Binge watching TV. Well, we want to binge think easy peasy, that's measy. Go from one thought to the next time you can have that thought, to the next time you can have that thought. And if you ever hear yourself claiming that something's going to be hard, yes, of course, do the antidote. Do the opposite thinking. But don't isolate it to just those times to practice. We need the power, the strength, the frequency, the duration that we focus on these thoughts, the intensity of emotion that we give them in our knowing. We need that to become stronger than these negative, limited thinking we've been feeding all our lives. So, your mission? Binging. Easy peasy, that's measy. Say it with me. Easy peasy, that's measy. When we allow easy peasy of God to flow through our thinking, then good effortlessly shows up in our experiences. Easy peasy, that's measy. We are the people, now is the time, and this is the way. Namaste, my friends.